We just returned from a week on board the Norwegian Gem.
And we've got the inside scoop about everything you want to know about the great cruise comeback. We absolutely love Norwegian Cruise Lines, and while we typically travel with our children, because of Norwegian Cruise Line's current protocol, we were unable to take them with us this time. But when we were given the opportunity to jump back into the sea on one of the first sailings back in the Caribbean with Norwegian, we were ecstatic to do so. Now, the Gem is not typically our type of ship that we would choose for our family. We're more of a breakaway class kind of family. We were pleasantly surprised at how well maintained the ship was, the cleanliness of it, and of course, Norwegian's staff is absolutely amazing as always.
Our trip began as we arrived at Fort Lauderdale Airport. We chose to use Norwegian's shuttle service, which was seamless as always, and the one key benefit to that is we didn't have to set a time up for our COVID testing. Once we arrived at the port, we were escorted off the bus and directed to the COVID testing area. They checked our vaccine status and then directed us to the area where we were instructed on how to self-test. Once that was completed, we went to a holding area where they had a screen and we waited for the magic number to be called showing that our COVID test was negative. Of course, Kaylee's test comes back within the normal allotted time and she got the pink band of approval, but of course mine was delayed, and by that time I was sweating bullets on the fact that I may not be getting on this cruise after all. But thankfully, the number finally came up, I got that pink band, and we got out of there as soon as possible before they changed the ride.
After receiving our pink wristbands, we were directed to the next section of the check-in process, which was quick, simple, and easy, just like normal with Norwegian. We then found ourselves walking up the gangway, and at the top of the gangway, we were instructed to remove our masks for their new facial recognition. Once they checked our facial recognition, we were not required to put that mask back on throughout the duration of the cruise. The next thing we knew, it was time for the sail away party. After 18 long months, we finally realized we were back at sea just where we were supposed to be. The first port of call is always exciting, no matter how many times you've cruised. But to say we were excited to be back in Honduras after all this time was kind of an understatement. And it wasn't just because we were so excited. When we pulled into port, the locals were there to greet us. Not just at the port, but they were stopping on the roads and taking pictures with us in the ship in the background. And it was just amazing to know that we weren't the only ones that were super excited for us to be back. On this trip to Honduras, we chose to go to Maya Cay, which is a private little island. It's only about 5 minutes from the port on a boat. And it's got an animal sanctuary on it, which if you know anything about us, animals are our thing. And we couldn't wait to go see all these amazing animals. As we arrived, they instructed us that we had roughly 4 hours on the island with lunch included, and we could go see it at our leisure. We started off to find some of the funnest animals. There were tons of macaws and lizards, a sloth, there was jaguars and sea lions, and kombucha monkeys, which we absolutely loved. But in the middle of this, we were actually stopped by a new friend. His name's Hank, and he asked us if he could show us some of the animals. And of course, we were super excited to go see these animals. So he took us around and he introduced us to all of these animals and called them by name and told us their story of how they came to be at this sanctuary. Whether they were rescued from somewhere they weren't supposed to be, whether they were injured and would no longer make it in the wild, or whether they just had people that had them and shouldn't have had them. So some of our very favorites we got to encounter was the sloth named Tina. We learned a lot about sloths in this one. and we got to meet Sumo, the jaguar.
Come on, buddy. Yeah, he's very playful. Yeah, this here is the jaguar. He's a male jaguar. We call him Sumo, you know, like the sumo wrestler. So I mentioned Sumo, he was rescued, and well, this cat, he was hit by a machete on the back. So you have a huge scar on the other side. You can't see it, yeah. Sumo's roughly around 10 years of age. They will live about 8 years in the wild and about 20 years in captivity.
Tyson also got to experience Kale, the sea lion. And because Hank was so amazing, he let us actually feed Kale. Kale happens to be 70% blind and clearly would not make it in the wild, but he was an absolute joy to get to meet. And Tyson got to feed him, and we learned all about him as well. The beach resort was absolutely beautiful there. Crystal clear blue waters, and not very many people. So it was quite the day. Food was exceptional. The people, again, were just amazing. We couldn't have asked for a better day. This would definitely rank up there with one of our very favorite excursions that we have ever taken.
Our second port of call was Harvest Caye, Belize, one of Norwegian's private destinations. This also just so happens to be one of our favorite places to just go with the flow, relax at the beach, and sip on some fresh coconut water. It was amazing to us just how awesome this place had been maintained. It was just like cruising and never stopped. The grounds were meticulous, the beach was fantastic, and all of the local shops were open. Of course, in the Caribbean, there's a seaweed problem, but there was workers out at the beach all day long cleaning up all of the seaweed to make sure the beach was in impeccable shape. One of the disappointments of the trip is one of our favorite lunch spots, the Lanchar Grill, had closed down and has now been rebranded as the Harvest Caye Grill, which was okay, but just not quite the same. One of the things we typically experience in Harvest Caye is torrential downpours, which just so happens this time there was no rain, which also was an added bonus. One of the coolest parts about Harvest Caye is they have a massive, beautiful swimming pool. It has a really cool swim-up bar and tons of lounge chairs that surround it, that if you want to hang out by the pool, there's a place for you. There's also this really neat lighthouse that has a zip line that originates from the top of that and goes all the way back to where the ship is docked. And it's really fun to watch from the beach where you can see people soaring above you. There's also some really cool local shops, and two of our favorites are fresh coconut water. And if you know anything about me, I love my hot sauce. And Belize is famous for their hot sauce, so we always try to take home some local hot sauces to restock for the next year. Our third port of call was Costa Maya, Mexico. Since we've been here quite a few times and there wasn't really any excursion options that piqued our interest, we decided to spend the day at port. We walked around a lot of the local shops, and I just so happened to be wearing one of my shirts that had my favorite college team on, and one of the local vendors ushered me into a shop to quickly show me he had some of our college memorabilia. So, lo and behold, I came home with a mask. Go Utes! We were hoping to spend some time eating some good tacos for lunch at our favorite taco shop, Don Lolo's, but unfortunately, they're still not open, so that was kind of a bummer.
Don Lolo's is not open yet.
Not open! Best tacos in Mexico are not open. That was a bummer. Once we finished shopping around the port, we hit up some local Mexican food, spent some time at the port, and then kind of meandered our way back to the ship.
So for our fourth and final port of call, we went to Cozumel, Mexico, where we were wreaking some of the effects of Hurricane Ida with some awesome downpour. And so we were super excited that we had an indoor excursion for this day. And it's a little something I know nothing about, but Tyson was in his happy place. We chose to do a cooking excursion. Now, these guys were absolutely amazing, and they walked me through every single step, so even I was able to cook a Mexican meal. Not saying much because my skills are not amazing. However, it did turn out quite tasty. We started off our culinary experience making dessert. So we started off by sauteing up some plantains and drizzling over some tequila-infused chocolate. And then we quickly placed that in the freezer so it could chill. We moved on to our main course, which for Tyson was his happy place with some seafood, which I do not enjoy. So they gave me some chicken. We got those all cooked up, and then we placed those over a bed of yummy veggies. Put those in foil, placed those in the oven to finish cooking, and started in on our appetizer. They gave us a ball of masa and taught us how to make a sopa, which was amazing. And then we, again, were given a protein. Tyson chose shrimp, I chose chicken. We sauteed those up and drizzled them with some heavy cream and some chipotle sauce. And then we were given the opportunity to move up to a dining room where we got to enjoy our 3-course meal with all of the new friends that we had just made. And it was exceptional food, even for those of us who don't cook. It was quite delicious. And then we were given the opportunity to enjoy the resort where this was taking place, of Playa Mia. It had a beautiful, beautiful beach, as well as amazing dining options that were included and a pool. But because Hurricane Ida had shown her face just a little, it was a great downpour outside, so there really wasn't enjoying the beach too much that day. More or less, we all chose to kind of just head back to the port and get back on the ship instead of enjoying the rain. So it was an amazing day. I think this is probably one of Tyson's very favorite excursions he's ever done. And we can't wait to go back and try it again.
We had such an amazing vacation over the last 7 days. The excursions we experienced are some of the funnest we've ever had and arguably some of the most memorable excursions ever. Regardless of whether you stand with the vaccination status, Norwegian's protocols really did allow for as close to a pre-pandemic cruising environment as possible. The dining was just like it's always been. There was self-service at the buffet, and don't worry, there was plenty of bacon to go around. As far as the specialty dining was concerned, all the restaurants were open. We were able to experience the French restaurant, Le Bistro, which was absolutely amazing. Then, of course, we experienced the fan favorite, teppanyaki. The main dining room was like it always is, freestyle dining at its best, and the food was great, and it left nothing to be desired.
The entertainment was exceptional, just like Norwegian style. We were able to see one show called Swing, which was super fun and upbeat, and then one of my personal favorites would have to be Blazing Boots, which is all country. I did find myself singing along often, and I apologize for that to anyone who may have been around us, but I did enjoy it. The service was exceptional, just as true Norwegian style. Because we were at a 50% capacity on the ship and the staff is at 100% capacity, it was almost like we had 2-to-1, and the service could not have been any better. They were constantly trying to make our vacation the most memorable and best experience it could be. And we did have an absolutely amazing room steward. And it was like he knew exactly what I wanted, because the towel animals are my very favorite, and he went above and beyond. I saw animals this time that I've never seen before, and he never took them out of our room. He let us decorate our room with them, and it made my entire trip even that much better.
If you're on the fence about cruising, we're telling you, cruising's back. There's not an environment where you can go to where everyone around you is vaccinated, including staff, and there's arguably not a safer environment to vacation. So if you're on the fence, cruising is back, get after it. You're going to absolutely love your experience.